What's up, YouTube? This is CJ.
And Sarah.
It's a Wednesday, and that means it's time for another Keto
Conversation.
So let's get started. I'm going to let you introduce the topic.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
Tonight we're going to be talking about keto myths versus keto facts.
So, I guess the main point behind this talk tonight is that it is important to understand where you get your information from.
That's
and
right.
what sources, and to understand what sources are being quoted, understand that...
there's a lot of headlines right now.
Right.
And not all of them are based on fact or actual studies or even written by people who've even done the ketogenic diet.
Right.
Or know anything about it at all.
You know, we're always looking for topics for the keto conversation. So we do sit around and talk about keto all the time.
Yeah.
So even with that, sometimes we run out of topics to talk about. So this is an article by Nima-Teicholz that we're going to reference, and she covers 13 keto myths versus the facts.
And she is actually an expert in the ketogenic world.
Let's talk about who she is.
She has a book called The Big Fat Surprise, and of course it was a bestseller. She also is backed by the Arnold Foundation, and they're actually a group of people who've gone before Congress to try and suggest that the standard American diet and all the dietary guidelines that we follow right now that are followed by people in nursing home care, people in the military, and also our children, all of their dietary guidelines are influenced by the government, and all of those standards are outdated, and things like saturated fat and meat are villainized. And so she goes to Congress and tries to fight to have all of those dietary guidelines changed so that we can stop villainizing saturated fat. She has also practiced a ketogenic low carb diet for over 10 years. So she actually understands and knows about what she is talking about. So we're going to be going through her article because she has broken down several studies, even studies that are done by big universities like Harvard, studies in like Men's Journal and some of the other things that you might see sensationalized both on the news and when you go, you're checking out your groceries and you're looking at the magazine
or just
stands,
on the internet. Internet in general.
Fake news, basically.
Right.
So we're just going to discuss a few of the myths that she has encountered and discover the truths behind them, and also cite some sources that you can go and read for yourself. We're going to break down each one. So we're going to be reading the myth, and then we are going to be discussing her rebuttal to these myths.
Yes, so you'll see
us looking down and reading.
Yeah, you'll kind of see me looking on the iPad. That's what that's all about.
Right, because we need to read what the actual myth is and where it's from, and then her rebuttal and her information source.
Yeah, and so this is some really detailed information, and we're trying to, we're not trying to have this be 3 or 4 hour conversation because it could be.
So we're only going to be talking about four of her 12 myths. So if you want to see the rest, all the information is going to be linked both from the myth side. And some of when we were looking for some of the myth things, some of those articles have been removed. So actually we are going to have the myth ones, and then we're going to have her rebuttal. So you'll be able to find all the information and watch it or read it or listen to it in whole.
Yes, and our hope behind this type of video is that as you do the keto journey, your keto diet or your keto journey, you have some good solid information behind what you're doing.
And you can understand that there's a lot of fake keto news.
Yes,
and you have to consider your source if you're really going to get legitimate information.
So I'm gonna just say this just to get this off of my chest. We have a blog, CJ's Keto Kitchen, and one of the things that I purchased a course and from a person, and one of the things I thought was really funny is at one point he was telling people who were buying this course that, hey, if you want to really get people to come to your blog, you need to talk about the keto diet. Now this was a
random person, not someone in the ketogenic world.
Right, this is a total random person. Yeah, he actually has a keto blog. I don't know if he does the keto diet or not. But what he teaches is how to be a successful blogger. Not just how to be a successful keto blogger, but a blogger in general. So you could have a blog about cats, you could have a blog about dogs, you could have
But if you talk about a keto cat or dog,
right.
then
And so one of the things that he said at one point was suggestion, and again I respect this person to the utmost. I respect him to the utmost, and so it's not about bashing him, but it's. I thought it was funny because we're kind of in the keto space. We have a keto blog, we have a keto YouTube channel, and then for me to purchase this course, and to hear that, it's like, okay, that's kind of funny. But the point behind that is that keto is hot.
It's trendy.
Keto is a trendy thing, and the advice was if you want to draw people to your blog, write something about keto. And so I say that because a lot of the stuff that you read and may hear about keto, especially a lot of the negative stuff, it's all about just clickbait. It's about getting people to go to this information and read through it because, again, keto is hot. And a lot of people want to be, there's a tactic, and this even happens on YouTube. If I say something contradictory,
you're going to get more views.
Contradictory,
yeah.
I'm going to get more views. Or if I say something controversial, I'm going to get more views. Right. And so just keep that in mind when you hear things, when you read things. All news is not real news. And everything on the internet is not really true. And so we tell our kids that all the time. And it is so
There's
true.
a lot of things they think are true.
Yes.
Because it's on YouTube.
Yes, our kids think a lot of stuff is true because it's on YouTube and it's
so
got to be true.
If you want to think like a 10, 8, and 6-year-old, then definitely believe everything that you read.
Yeah. All right. So the first myth we're going to talk about is keto is dangerous if you have diabetes.
Because this was based, here is the myth. It was based on it says new research published in the Journal of Psychology, of Physiology, indicates that ketogenic diets, which are low carbohydrate, high fat eating plans that are known to lead to weight loss, may cause an increased risk of type 2 diabetes in the early stages of the diet. So, well, number one, it kind of makes me go, in the early stages of the diet, so long term.
Yeah, and this was...
what if you already have diabetes? And you're in the early stages of the diet, you already have diabetes, so what?
And that was a source from Medical Express, whatever
yes.
that is. And so...
So number one, the study was done on mice. Okay, humans are not mice. We are not biologically extremely similar to mice. So first of all, you want to try and find studies that are done with actual human beings, just because it's going to be a more factual study. So number one, that's the most, interesting part of this article is that it was studies that were done on rodents and not on human beings. The nutritional remedy for type 2 diabetes is carbohydrate restriction. Back in the 50s and 60s, they used to call it sugar diabetes because that meant that your diabetes that you had, type 2, was caused by sugar. So we know, no matter what, there's all kinds of ongoing university studies with actual human being patients that up to 60% of people who are put on a carbohydrate restricted diet were able to control and reverse their diabetes.
Yes.
So these are actual human studies
and
are being done.
And we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an ex-wife who was diagnosed with having type 2 diabetes. This was probably 20 years ago. And when we went to the doctor, we did not leave with a prescription for anything. What we left with was a lot of paperwork, a lot of information about changing your diet. Right. What was the change to your diet? It was a carbohydrate restricted diet.
Right. You get rid of these simple sugars and carbohydrates.
And that was in the late 80s, early 90s when that happened. So and now I can also speak to this because when I started keto, I had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And because of keto, I was able to get myself off of the medications because I restricted my carbs and lost weight. Keto, it has helped me.
So that doesn't mean necessarily that you've cured your diabetes.
Right.
We've talked about this before. But what it really means is that it can help you eliminate the need to take medication and or insulin. And that if that is what you're looking for, then the ketogenic diet is not going to make it worse, but it could actually make it better and make it possible for you to get off your medication.
Because the myth is that the keto is going to actually make it
worse.
Dangerous for if you have diabetes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first myth we wanted to tackle.
Right.
And again, everything that we're talking about, she's got references to where it came from,
and also the refuting
information that's backed by medical information to refute whatever the point was.
Right.
All right. So
the second one is keto is not good for long-term weight management. And so the article that this was from, the myth part, is because the diet requires diligent monitoring, diet planning, and is very restrictive in nature, it is not recommended at this time for long-term use for weight management. And this was by somebody named Kelsey Atkin, and she's just a registered dietitian. So it doesn't say that she has any kind of degree or that she has any experience or has been monitoring patients.
But she is a registered dietitian. So
she's a dietitian.
I'm gonna
Sure.
say that. We'll give her that.
So Nina's response to this is studies have demonstrated that the keto diet may in fact be ideal for long-term weight management. One meta-analysis found that individuals following very low carbohydrate ketogenic diets lost more weight in 1 year than those on low-fat diets. And a survey published in the Journal of Insulin Resistance, and she lists her source here, found that 3 of 4 respondents on a low-carb diet reported losing 10 pounds or more, and 1/3 reported losing more than 30 pounds. 6 out of 10 respondents who were on the diet 2 years or more reported losing 20 pounds or more, and 46% they had lost 3 inches from their waist.
Right. So these are people who have been on the ketogenic diet for long term periods. And again, we can be attest to...
Both CJ and I have been on the ketogenic diet for over 2 years.
Over 2
years.
years.
Both of us have lost 80 pounds and multiple inches.
And believe me, once you kind of get into the swing of things and figure things out, you can do it long term.
Yes.
And it's not that big of a deal to do it long term.
No, and there are several MDs, like Dr. Eric Westman, who not only have a patient database where their patients have been following the ketogenic diet for multiple years, but he himself has been practicing low carb for nearly 20 years and is still doing it.
Right.
So,
I think Nina, for 10 years at least?
yes.
Nima-Teicholz
And she said, even though she's not trying, she will occasionally continue to drop more weight. So it just, after a number of years, she said she was 5 years in and dropped like another 10 pounds. So sometimes your body just takes a little bit more time too and resettles and reconfigures.
Right.
So, yes.
All right. So number 12. Now this is kind of, this is a little bit
This is similar
to what we just talked about.
I think this is probably more, the myth is that people just can't stay on keto. And so I'm thinking that this one is just a little bit more like when they're initially trying it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and read the
So
myth?
the myth is from Harvard Medical School, and it says, it is hard to follow, it's so hard to stick with that people can't eat this way for a long time. And this is by Marcelo Campos, and he's a doctor at Harvard Medical School.
He's an MD. Right.
So Nina's response to this was, the ketogenic diet does not limit calories. People can eat as much as they like so long as they restrict carbohydrates. This means that people don't have to endure long periods of feeling hungry, which is why the ketogenic diet tends to be sustainable. The survey in the Journal of Insulin Resistance found that before respondents started their low-carb diets, nearly 9 of 10 experienced intense hunger between meals. And that once when they were on the diet, only 3.5% said that they grew hungry between meals. Respondents reported similar improvements in other aspects of their physical and psychological well-being. And of the 1,580 survey participants, more than half reported staying on a low-carb diet for at least 1 year, and 34% reported more than 2 years. Further, those on the diet for 2 years or more said that they had largely maintained their weight loss. I think that's one of the biggest differences between the low-carb diet and, say, calorie restriction, is that oftentimes, like The Biggest Loser or some of those other TV shows that have been on, calorie restriction will work for a set number of people. But 9 times out of 10, after a certain period of time, they will regain all of their weight and sometimes more.
Yes.
And that's what they're finding with the low-carb studies, is that people are able to continue to keep their weight off, which is what sets it apart from other types of diets.
Right. I almost feel like saying it's real weight loss. You're losing fat.
Right.
You're not just losing water. Yes,
No.
you do lose some water, but you're losing your body's burning
You're
fat.
changing the entire configuration
right.
of your
And
body, really.
So it is sustainable, real weight loss, and people studies are showing that over time, people are being able to maintain that weight
Right.
loss.
And here's the further takeaway from this. She says, further evidence comes from a large, university-based study on patients with type 2 diabetes, which showed an exceptional 84% adherence to a ketogenic diet at 1 year. So even after a year, 84% of people were still adhering to that if they had gone on the ketogenic diet. So 84% is, I'm sure, a much larger adherence rate than most other diet programs, probably all the popular ones, all your popular diet programs.
Right.
So.
Right.
And that's something to note too, when we were reading through this article that, we already talked about how mice studies are sometimes listed as, but there's a difference between an associative study and a causation study. Sometimes things can be associated together. Like I was listening to someone and they talked about how there's more drowning deaths in the summer and there's more ice cream related deaths in the summer. And so somehow ice cream got related to drowning, and so you're more likely to drown if you've eaten ice cream. Well, they both happen in the summer. More people are in the water in the summer, more people are eating ice cream in the summer. So sometimes people can put these together and make them an associative study. And that's not really accurate because, if you were to say 100% of fires caused by matches, you have a 100% chance of firemen being nearby. Yeah, you hope so. So those are associative studies. They're different than causation studies that actually have more of a random control group. So it's like if you were to ask somebody to sit down right now and ask them what they ate every day during the last year, because we're here in December now.
No.
So you take all of these people, you take 1,500 people and ask them to write down at this point, right now in December, what they ate all year long. On a day-to-day basis. Do you think that you would get very accurate information?
No way.
Versus if they had taken that same 1,500 people and say they were in an institutionalized setting such as prison, and they were feeding them a set amount of something every day, and they were able to catalog that. There were no variables because it was controlled. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between an associative study and a causation study. So that's something to consider.
And then the last myth is that keto kills.
This one was a very big one because it was in USA Today.
Yes,
so
and
this was actually splashed all over.
This is actually pretty recent too. That I heard that this came out. So
yes.
You want to read the myth?
Yes. So the myth is low carb diet is linked to early death. Medical studies suggest. USA Today citing a study mainly by Harvard researchers published in the Lancet Public Health. So, first of all, Harvard studies are generally backed by big conglomerates. Let's just put it out there. Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, other large companies will donate money to Harvard for them to do a study. So you can't always rely on those studies to be non-biased because their backers are large conglomerates that depend on money from sugar and carbohydrates. So sometimes right off the top, that is, something that kind of makes you think.
That can influence the outcome of the study.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that, when this article came out, it looks like Nina wrote an article, an op-ed piece for the Wall Street Journal and for Medscapes. And she talked about how this study was basically very thin data.
Well, first of all, they said that they did a low carbohydrate study, but actually the people that they studied, their idea of a low carbohydrate diet was almost 40% of their diet was coming from carbohydrates, and we know that that's not accurate as to what the ketogenic is made of.
Right, it's not.
Carbohydrates are more like 5% of the ketogenic diet. So right off the top, it wasn't a truly accurate low carbohydrate study. So that's number one. And then, there have been more than 70 trials examining the health effects of a low carb diet. They attest to the benefits. It's virtually impossible to imagine that a diet with so many health improvements could ultimately shorten your lifespan, because if you're reducing inflammation, if you're able to get off your diabetes medication, how can that possibly shorten your lifespan? I just don't see how that even makes sense.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And again, like what we've talked about, the larger question in articles like this is probably, why are we seeing so many anti-keto stories? There has to be an underlying reason that we're seeing so much anti-keto information. And like CJ said, it's because there's so many skeptics because people are losing money.
Yeah, and I say this all the time, but I think that as time continues, that we will actually hear more and more negative things about keto. I think there's too much money involved. There's too many people getting healthy. People are moving away from medications. People are changing how they eat. There's a lot of money associated with medication. There's a lot of money associated with high carb foods.
Yes.
A lot of junk food. There's a lot of money tied up.
So the medical industry is losing money. The food industries are losing money. So definitely
and unfortunately, I guess not for us, but for a lot of the industries, is that as more and more people have success with keto, and more the word spreads. Although people may say negative things about it, then you got more and more people that's showing you proof that it works.
And there's always going to be skeptics for every situation.
There's going to be skeptics, but you can't refute when you've got more and more people getting off of this medication, they're losing weight.
It's a visual thing. Better. You see people.
So it's not just a trendy thing because Kim Kardashian did it or the Kardashians
or Halle Berry practices it.
Right. It's not
whatever.
There's too many normal, regular people that people are starting to know across the world that's saying, hey, this is actually working for me. I've had these long-term conditions and I've started this diet and it's actually helping me. And like I said, that makes a lot of people, in my opinion, makes a lot of people nervous.
It does. And that, I think, then motivates more fake news because you end up with a lot of people producing this fake news.
Yeah.
And so once again, the whole idea behind us having this as a keto conversation is to be aware that there's going to be a lot of offenders speaking out against the ketogenic diet and to consider the source. Mm-hmm. Because if you want true information about the ketogenic diet, you need to go to people who are practicing the ketogenic diet, doctors, people with national best-selling books on the ketogenic diet, people who have a patient database that they're currently assisting with the ketogenic diet. Those are the type of people who really have the backup, the experience, the true actual human-based studies. Right. So that's basically this conversation in a nutshell.
Yeah. So that's about it. We wanted to kind of bring your attention to this article. We will put the link in the description for the video. It's a good read. I mean, it's got 13 different myths, but the way she has it laid out, it is really
it's easy to read.
It's easy to read. The hard part would be if you actually want to follow all the citations and go to all the different citations that she quotes. Some of them are very, very technical medical publications and literature related to studies. It's good information though, and so and if you take the time to read that, then you've got some, I guess, ammunition or facts behind what you're doing. You already know instinctively that this is working for you. But now you
probably have people in your life that have been naysayers or are naysayers.
Yes,
that's just the way it is. Sometimes it's perfectly natural for the people in your circle to see you, they see your success, they see your weight loss, and they feel guilty or they feel uncomfortable because you've lost weight and they're not losing weight, so they have to find some reason why they shouldn't go on the ketogenic diet, because then that would mean they would have to change their lifestyle and they don't want to.
Right.
And so a lot of times they're looking for these types of articles so they can tell themselves, well, I don't care if Uncle Bob's lost 80 pounds and has reduced his, diabetes risk and he's off all of his meds. That would mean I would have to change the way I'm eating. So I need to find a study that says that keto is dangerous.
And nobody will say that out loud. No. But a lot of times if you're meeting resistance with your friends or your family, what's going on? It's got nothing to do with you, really. It's got more to do with what you're projecting and what they're seeing in you and the changes, and how that somehow threatens them.
That means they should.
That they need to do something,
change.
and they know that they need to do something. So, if you're in those situations, we just would encourage you to hang in there. Just keep being a good example.
It'll wear away.
Just keep
eventually
doing what
it might wear away, and
keep
they'll
doing
join
what you need to do. You're responsible for you. You can, I can try to get people that I know to do keto and tell them blue in the face about keto. But
if they see you after 2 years and your weight is still off, that's going to speak for itself.
But ultimately, people have to make decisions for themselves.
Yep.
And we can only do so much. But if you're a good example, you keep living the way you want to live and do what you need to do for you. Eventually, I do believe that people will come around. The smart people will come around. And maybe I shouldn't have said the smart people, but I think that's just true. Because I couldn't sit here and not do keto and see the results you had, and then sit here and pick at it and put you down and do all. I would be a fool to do that. And maybe I shouldn't have said that.
I wouldn't have moved in with you.
But I would have been a fool to sit here and try to put you down. But because of the success you have, because somehow it threatens me.
Right.
And so, to me, a smart person would say, you know what, maybe I ought to look at
what's the worst that could happen.
What you're doing. Right. What's the worst that can happen? And sometimes, you don't need to pester, especially if you're talking about like a spouse. You don't need to pester them. You just need to do what you need to do. You just need to live the way you need to live. Get them to try some food. They like it.
And sometimes eventually they'll just be like...
Because again, they're seeing what's happening.
Can't beat them, join them.
They're seeing what's happening to you, and they'll come along and join you, and then, things will be a lot easier and smoother for you. So, anyway, that's this week's Keto Conversation. Hopefully, you will check this article out. It's a really good article.
It's very good.
And
Nina also has videos on YouTube. She has been the speaker at many low-carb conferences. Like I said, she's also gone before the CDC and is trying to change the dietary guidelines so that we can have better food for the military, better food for nursing homes, better food for our kids in the schools. So she's definitely a powerhouse. And if you want to find out more information about her, there's information about her on Wikipedia. And like I said, she does have current publications on the bestseller list. So check her out.
All right, so if you just happen upon this channel tonight or this video, this is our Keto Conversations segment that we do every Wednesday. We do new recipes on Sunday, and you need to talk about what's coming up. I just thought about that.
Okay, well, it is December. Currently, it is actually December 3rd today. And for the month of December, we are going to focus on some more yummy goodies for the holiday season.
Some more holiday recipes.
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be mostly things like candy, cookies, those kind of things you can leave out for Santa, things that you can take to your holiday parties, give as gifts. Even though we had a holiday series last month, we want to go ahead and continue a few more holiday recipes into December. So, that's what we're going to be doing. So, stay tuned.
Yep. So, thank you for watching CJ's Keto Kitchen. If you're new here, consider subscribing. We'd love to have you as part of our ketogenic family and help support you in your keto journey.
And go ahead and hit that bell, because it is the month of December. And you know what happens when you ring a bell? Angels get their wings. So go ahead and ring that bell.
Okay. Sure. Yes. Please hit the bell so you can be notified when we put new videos out.
Get all those angels their wings.
And
come on.
Help some angels get their wings. Wow, you pulled that out from, I don't know where you got that from. But anyway.
It's a Wonderful Life. That's where I got that from.
Okay. You know what? I have never watched that movie all the way through.
Oh boy, we're going to have some fun this Christmas. You got to watch that.
I've never watched it all the way through.
Gotta watch it.
So, I'm more of a Christmas story.
And I've never seen that. We are going to have some movie marathons.
Or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's more my speed for Christmas. Thanks for watching CJ's Keto Kitchen. We appreciate you being here. Bye-bye. Peace.